Megan. I've looked over your lesson plan and here is some feedback for you. So obviously, symbolism, scarlet letter, right? Really good fit because there's a ton of it in there, right? It's symbolism of light and dark. I mean, who can forget these things, right? So your standard that you chose for this is interesting, right? It's listening critically to comprehend a speaker's message and then initiate and participate effectively in a range of collaborative discussions. But in your actual lesson plan, you have the students reading a chapter and identifying symbols and then finding explicit textual evidence to support their defense of that object or that person being a symbol. So I think there's a tiny bit of I think there's a bit of a misalignment issue of, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. It's very early in the morning right now. So I can see why you have oral expression and listening in there because of the fact that you have the kids coming back together as a group and talking about what they found and defending what they found, things like that. But I wonder if you don't need to either two established goals or a different established goal, right? Because the purpose of the lesson, as you tell me, right, as you lay out right here, is students will identify and reflect on symbols, recognize and discuss symbols. So you've got to have these students will be able to, and these students will understand examples of symbols, development and interpretation of symbols. You've got to have those noted in your evidence outcomes up here, okay? So a line from your students will be able to back up into your evidence outcomes, and then vice versa, right? If you have from your evidence outcomes oral expression and listening, listening critically, initiating, participating effectively in a range of collaborative discussions, then it's not just a matter of telling them to do those things in the lesson plan. It's a matter of you teaching the skills that come from this established goal. What does it mean to listen versus to listen critically? What does it mean to initiate? What does it mean to participate? What does that look like? What does that not look like? Nonverbals, verbals, all those kinds of things. So if you want this established goal in here, you need to go back into your lesson plan and you actually need to teach those skills, right? Whereby the kids experience them, they label them, you model them, they whole group practice and individually practice them, right? I mean, and I know that sounds like a lot, but I hope by this point you're starting to get like the idea of a mini lesson, right? So if you want this established goal in there, you need to actually have a mini lesson about that goal. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I feel like I'm babbling just a little bit right now. So if it doesn't make sense, come talk to me, come ask me, okay? So let's look into your actual learning plan itself. Okay, here we go. So let's talk about hooks for just a second here. Having a journal prompt on the board, right? So kids come in, sit down, see the prompt, and start writing towards it. That isn't necessarily in and of itself a hook. A hook is much more not about the action that the kids are doing, but it's that notion of what are you doing to grab their attention, their thinking, their brains away from passing period in the hallway and into your room, right? So, imagine, right, it's 7:30 in the morning on Monday and kids are dragging in, the bell rings, they plop down, and you say, today we're going to talk about symbol and why it's important. I want you to take the first 5 minutes of class to write what you think symbol is and why it might be important to a text. Any questions? You double plan that, all right? Remember, that Doug Lemov idea. Put yourself in a student's shoes. You're a 15-year-old adolescent at 7:30 on a Monday morning, and your teacher's just told you to write for 5 minutes about a literary concept called symbolism. I don't know that it's there. I don't know that that's going to get the kids' brains churning in the direction you want them churning. That being said, I think journal prompt is a good idea, but I almost feel like before you get to journal prompt, you need something up here. Or if you want to start with journal prompt, you've got to start from the student life and work into your lesson plan. Remember, we talked about what are some of those, just kind of as a general idea, what are some of those common human experiences that you can get the kids to think about and put them into a memory loop about, right? Instead of saying, today we're going to talk about symbol and why it's important, I want you to take the first 5 minutes of class to write. What about starting with the images that you have on the bottom? Look at the symbols that are on the board right now, and label each one or something like that, right? Because kids are very, again, I'm going to think about the universal human experience, right? And especially younger generations, they're so visual, right? So just take that piece that you have there and put it up at the top, right? So let me scroll down and tell you kind of what's going on in my head with this. Right, so you have this projected up on the board, okay? And you give the kids like seriously, guys, you got this. I'm giving you 2 minutes, right? So you point to it, you go, what is this? Stop. How do you know? Because it says stop. Good. What is this? Money. How do you know? Because it says money. It says money. I don't see an M on there. I mean, I thought money was MONEY. Well, no, it's got the dollar sign. Well, okay. Well, that totally stands for money. Are you sure that's a dollar sign? I mean, it looks like an S with 2 lines on the top and the bottom. Well, yeah, that's a dollar sign. And besides, it's green. So what does it matter if it's green? Well, it's the color of money. Interesting. I'm wondering how you guys knew all these things, right? What about this? Oh, it means someone's got an idea. No, it doesn't. It means there's electricity available. No, well, yeah, but, right, do you see how now I'm starting to grab them and challenge them? I'm even making my transition into my lesson plan a little easier, right? Because the kids want to say, that stands for money. Well, in reality, it doesn't. That's a totally human-created cultural context piece, right? If you took that to, I don't know, a tribe in Papua New Guinea, would they say the same thing? If you took this to, an Aboriginal group of people, who live in the outback of Australia, would they even know what this means? No way, because these are human-created cultural contexts, and that's really what symbolism is all about. But do you see how I gave them something eye-catching? I walked them into something that they were like, oh, that's totally easy, I can do that. And then you're like, aha, gotcha. Do you see what I'm saying about a hook? So let's keep talking about and thinking about those hooks and how it is that we go from the universal human experience to get our kids in line, okay? I'm only going to talk about one other piece in here, and I started talking about it just a little bit a second ago with symbolism, okay? So you have your direct instruction, okay? So we're going to project this symbolism page, we're going to read the definition of symbolism, and then we're going to say, what symbols do we see here? Why does the red octagon mean stop? Why did the mask represent theater and drama? And then you say, finish talking about symbols with the worksheet, and then go find some symbols. But you have not really taught them about symbolism. What you might be suffering from here, Megan, is that notion of velocitation. You're used to being in a world with a whole bunch of people who are highly motivated, self-selected, very academically inclined English students. And you say, what is symbol? And they're like, all over it, got it. They do their analysis so lightning fast that it seems to be almost non-existent. You seem to go from question to answer in 0.01 second, but that's not the case. It's because it's so well practiced. Think about what you said here. You want your students to be able to begin identifying and reflecting on symbol, recognizing and discussing the symbol of the scarlet letter. But you have not talked to them about how symbols are created, what authors do to create symbols, what human beings do to create symbols, what cultures do to create symbols. If you, let me play devil's advocate here for you for a sec, okay? If you want to say the scarlet letter A is a symbol for adultery, no, it's not. No, it's not, because do you know the statistics of people who cheat on their spouses in 2014? Megan, it's staggering. It's well over half of legally married, committed spouses admit to adultery. they don't walk around wearing a scarlet letter A. That scarlet letter A in this text is a symbol for adultery because of the time period, the setting, the context, all of those pieces. Even the fact that it's a scarlet letter, a red letter. Why is that? Because historically speaking, the color red was the color of loose women who were prostitutes. Good women, right? Nice, proper, societal, married women did not wear the color red. They didn't. And that is a cultural, contextually bound piece of information that influenced that symbol. Anymore, you see, like everyone wears the color red. It's like, I don't know, just a color to wear. And so the color red does not have that same kind of a marker. So listen to those things I'm talking about, and then look at the kind of lacking depth of your direct instruction and truly what needs to be your guided practice right here, right? You say, now that we have a better definition of symbol, we're going to spend a lot of time looking at symbol. What do you think the symbols were? Right there. Stop. You need guided practice right there. And you need to delve deep into symbolism. You've got these kids, hold on, I think you're 10th grade, is that what you're looking at? 9th grade. These kids are starting in high school. I mean, they've got some hard work ahead of them in their sophomore, junior, and senior years in analyzing literature. Let's give them the skills. Let's give them the tools. Let's teach them how and why we think about these things. It's really that idea of cracking open the head of the expert. Because, Megan, when you step into a 9th grade classroom, you are clearly an expert on literature. Especially when you're looking at, 9th grade kids, 14-year-olds. And so to you, this seems so natural. We look at that dollar sign and we know it means money, right? Right. Okay, good. Let's look at symbols. Like, there's a totally different thing to looking at a dollar sign and knowing it means money because you gave me something from my current context to digging into a historical piece of literature and analyzing it for symbolism. Got to put me in the right context. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense, the things I'm talking about, because you need to direct instruct, you need to guided practice, you need to do independent practice, and you need to be very cognizant of that notion of velocitation that we talked about. You are still going 65 miles an hour when you give this piece of instruction, and your kids, they're going 35 miles an hour. And you're going to be very stumped by the lightness of their answers and the lack of depth with which they can speak to you about it. So I hope that makes sense. You know what, Megan, I would actually love to see a revision of this lesson plan. Like, come swing by my office hours one day and show me a revised lesson plan and talk to me about it and tell me the things that I've been talking about and the changes that you've made and all that kind of stuff, because this is a really essential step for you to get, especially in 308, before you hit 341 and 402, where the pace is going to be, 10 times as fast as what we're doing in here. So show me these revisions. Let me help you through this stuff, okay? I hope that's helpful.